Hello, humans, and welcome to another episode of Inoko.
The Conversation,
And you are joined once again by your co-host, Isako Mawe.
and Apium Twago.
And for this week's episode, one thing that had me really going was when I went to visit family in Guguletu over the weekend. And there were some things that happened that went down, and it's really made me think about how we really live in two different cities.
Yes, and as someone who lives full time in the township, I think I have some wisdoms to share regarding what it's like to be existing in those two cities. But before we get into the nitty gritties of today's topic, let's do a younger pet check in.
Okay, well, Scully is, as I've said, really needy, but right now he's in his more sleep, mostly phase, or mostly asleep phase. And he just loves getting, back scratches and butt pats. And I don't know, he's living his life very easily. I wish I was a cat and had no concept of money.
Honestly, they asked us, they were like, someone asked, what would you rather be in this world if you could be anything at all? And I was like, I would literally just be my cat because he is so pampered. He's been really relaxed, sleeping mostly, which is basically his whole entire persona. And I was attacked by a kitten this morning.
What?
Yeah, I went to my friend's house before I came here, and I was literally just sitting on the chair, and this kitten attacked me. But she's cute. So
Attacked you how?
she just jumped on my back, and my back is quite bare right now. I'm not wearing anything that is protective. I'm just wearing like a strappy shirt. So I literally cried. I was just like, why is this happening? But she's cute, so she
Was
gets away
just
with
trying
it.
to climb.
I know she was just trying to climb, poor thing. But yeah, so that's my friend's little brother's cat.
And how's Peanut Butter?
Peanut Butter's doing amazing. Yeah, he likes to go out at night. Is that a thing?
Yeah, my mother says he ululako because he's my whore.
Oh, wow.
Because literally every night he jumps in and out. As I told you, he's a scolly. So what's he
Yeah,
going to do?
exactly. Yeah, Peanut Butter likes to go out at night. Then he knocks in the morning.
Ugh,
Like he scratches on the door to
the
be let
knocks.
in. And obviously demanding his food, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
So every day before I go to work, I make sure to feed him. And like my dad is around, so he does the rest during the day, making sure that he's got fresh water and all such. But yeah, he's doing good. He makes me happy. So I'm really proud to have him as a pet.
Well, I'm glad about that.
What happened at the New Orleans?
At the New Orleans. So
I remember because this was last week, right?
Yeah.
When we after we recorded the podcast, and we went together, and I left you there at home.
yeah. So
Take me through the events.
I think it was the evening of, actually, the day that you dropped, well, we went to Gogs together. And I was just smoking my cigarette outside of the front gate.
Which is a very bad habit. We don't encourage such.
Yes, it's a very bad habit, and as such, I'm sufficiently ashamed enough that I do not smoke around my family. I do not smoke around in people's view. So that's why I went all the way down the driveway to the front of the gate, and my cousin joins me, but he's smoking his pipe, his Mary Jane.
Right.
And so he's feeling himself. And I'm dressed, and I'm just gonna give you a picture.
Okay.
I'm dressed in a Dolce Gabbana jacket and Louis
Nice.
Vuitton loafers.
Okay.
So I'm looking cute, right?
Righto.
And so
Rightly so.
as we return from getting cigarettes, I'm smoking it. He's got his pipe. He's having his good time. Then around the corner, whoop whoop.
Not the 5-0.
The 5-0 says whoop whoop. And I was genuinely confused. I thought to myself there was something happening around the corner.
Right.
And suddenly
Gandhi, you were the danger.
and suddenly these doors open and 4 officers step out. And I'm still confused. I'm still like, what is happening? Surely I would have known if something went wrong. Turns out we were the ones who were wrong. We were wrong.
Wow.
Because suddenly they're like, please turn around, put your hands up. I asked them, what's the cause? What's the suspicion? They said, well, anyone who we find, they can stop them. I'm like, this does not sound legal. But anyway.
Ooh.
I turn around and then they pat me down. The first time in my life I have ever been stopped by a police officer, and it was to be patted down.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I wasn't even shook about it. It just made me laugh.
Right.
Like I was just laughing because
That sounds very traumatic. I wouldn't have a fun time. Well, I think there's a distinction that we must make. You're obviously an African male, and I'm not.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't. It's not a typical occurrence for women to be stopped and searched.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I have seen stuff like that happen, especially during before during lockdown.
Yeah.
It was a thing because there was that curfew that was enforced. And I think it was genuinely enforced in the township specifically.
Yeah.
And I think it happened once or twice where like law enforcement, not the actual SAPs.
Yeah.
So law enforcement is notorious for kicking people in the butt on the streets. So we know that if they are in the area, we need to clear out.
We need to bounce.
Yeah, and obviously you can't be walking around at night. Well, what time was it, by the way?
I wasn't even walking around. I was standing in front of my family home's gate at like 7 p.m.
7 p.m.?
Yeah.
That's early.
Exactly.
Unbelievable. But at least you should be thankful because they're trying to keep your neighborhood safe.
They're trying to keep my neighborhood safe, yet they drove past two individuals who I would have found suspicious.
Sus.
I'm just saying.
Eesh.
Not to say that I don't look suspicious, but I'm adorable, and so therefore, by extension, in comparison, those two, I would have stopped over me.
That's what we say, though. Like, I feel like people who are good looking get away with so much nonsense because they don't look suspicious. People are like, well, but he's so good looking. He would never do that. And you know how things are. But yes, I understand. I'm really sorry about that.
I mean, I think for me, it was my mind going through scenarios because...
Actually, I'm not sorry. It's just like... I just want to say it sounds like it was a horrible and surprising and weird and strange incident, and I can understand how that may have gotten you to feel certain feelings.
It's not even feel certain feelings. It was just this mind warp where I'm the Karen in Woodstock who's always calling, like, you know, Woodstock Improvement District saying that there are things happening. No, but I'm not being a Karen. It's just that there are things that are happening. For example, people throwing glass bottles at each other. I mean, no. I'm sorry. I'm not going to tolerate that down my street. Versus then going there and being the culprit. So it's like this weird thing. And then I asked them...
It's a cognitive dissonance.
It's a cognitive dissonance. And I find myself asking... I asked them, how often do you do this? And they say they do it all the time.
Right.
And then I come to Woodstock and barely see them.
It's funny because you live right near the police station.
I live right next to the police station. I barely see the police officers. The people who patrol are like the security guards. Yeah, like...
Private security.
Yeah, private security.
Okay.
So, I don't know. I'm still processing
All right.
it.
So in the township, we have the police... And we have law enforcement.
Yes.
And we have the neighborhood watch.
Yes.
So the neighborhood watch, they go around, they kick everyone's ass. Like they'll beat anyone up. If you're out and about at a certain time, you're getting into trouble because the impetus is you should be joining us in trying to keep the streets safe. Instead, you're out and you're causing, I don't know, havoc in the streets. Then there's law enforcement. Obviously, it's in the name, law enforcement. They enforce the law. They also kick people. They also kick people's butts. But that was, like I said, it was usually during lockdown. So I go around at night pretty often. Like I will be out at a place that's nearby having a groovy time. And then I'll make my way home. But I never see anything like that. But it happens. It happens. The police will stop anyone they find to be suspicious, pat them down. I've seen it happen. Part of the reason why I stopped jogging in my neighborhood is because literally I was one morning just jogging, you know, trying to get my health and fitness on. And these vans just pulled up on this very nice looking car. Okay. So I just want to say this car was nice.
So you must stop. So basically don't look nice is what you're telling me.
That's, yeah. Then you look, I don't know, then you look like a real suspect because you don't look like you live around here. It was a very nice car. I think it was like a Jeep or like a a Range Rover. I think
Yeah.
it was one of those. It was a very nice SUV, and they stopped it. They were like, they pulled out their weapons for this person, and I was so shook. I never went jogging again. Of course, I mean, I could have just gone jogging the next day, but I was just too terrified of the events that can sometimes take place in the township.
Yeah.
And I think having lived in the township for as long as I have, I've developed a personality that is maybe goes against who I really am. I am a little bit introverted at times, but it forces me to be really introverted, to be a person who prefers their own space, who recharges alone, who prefers their alone time, even though I do have an outgoing and adventurous side to me.
Yeah.
So it does make me feel like I can't express myself fully. I don't feel particularly safe all the time. Like anything can happen. Like, it's the township, but where I live is totally different from where you live in the township. I just want to put that out there.
What do you mean?
It's very different. Like, your neighborhood is really quiet. Like, ours is, it's a lot. Like, there's always something happening. Like, there's always something happening.
Yeah, like I remember when I was younger, things were always popping off. They've actually calmed down now. In fact, they were calm and they started popping off, and then I think the community got tired of people not taking responsibility for their kids' actions.
I think because that's actually quite interesting, because it depends like which generation is the most prevalent in the community. So we have periods during the day, especially now that it's school holidays, where it's incredibly busy. Like, cars have to like drive like really, really slowly just to get through. And there's different streets. My street is particularly busy. I live on a corner even.
Sure.
I live on a corner, so everything is just loud. Someone called it audio terrorism. Shout out to Makita. Someone called it audio terrorism, and I totally agree. Like, it gets loud. It gets really loud. So I prefer to be indoors, with my music, with my TikTok, with my phone, just like mising everything and ignoring everything. Never been stopped and searched, like I said, but I have been in a stop and search situation with a few people that I was with, but that was because we were walking on like 2 a.m. So that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But also, I don't know. I'm not comfortable with it, but I can understand why it's being done. I maybe it was just my privilege speaking that I was shook at that it was me. Why me? But speaking on various things, you mentioned something which, because I also grew up in the township, but then I went to boarding school from 14 years old, and then I went to Rondebosch side, Rosebank side. So
Academic Mile,
basically. So I haven't actually lived properly in a very long time. But speaking of, the one thing that used to irritate my guts out of me was traffic.
Oh, yeah.
Coming into the city.
Yeah.
Because in Gogs, you have like probably 2 or 3 ways you can get out of the township, because you have Govenbeckie, you have Klipfontein, then you have the other side, Robert Sobukwe, but it joins into one lane
N2.
onto the N2.
Yeah.
So there aren't many routes, because to get to my house in Woodstock, I can find multiple ways to get here. I can take the N2, I can take what was Philip Hosanna Drive, what was formerly known as Duval Drive, I can use the N1, I can use Strand Street. There are so many streets and ways that are connected to Suburbia.
But that's the geography of the apartheid government.
No need to whisper it. Apartheid.
They created it in such a way that it was incredibly inconvenient.
Yeah.
So that you spend a good 2 hours of your life just on the road, just to be reminded that you don't belong here.
Yeah.
And uzobona, like from 3 o'clock on a weekday. Yeah. It's already packed.
Yeah.
Just leaving now the city. In the morning, I used to have to travel like super early. Mm-hmm. And I actually have a story about this, actually. I used to have to travel super early. I used to leave the house at like 5:45.
Yeah.
Just to get to work at like 7:30.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, one morning I was running a little bit late, as one does.
Yes.
It happens. And the people that I usually like walk with, because I have to walk to like where the taxi stop. So the people that I was with, they left before me. And actually, they actually even got a lift that day. They were like, oh, we're getting a lift. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to miss this lift. But anyway, I was like, it's fine, they can go. So they left me. So I leave the house at like 2:45, like 5 minutes after they've left. And I got accosted. I was held at, well, I don't know if that's dramatic, but yes, the guy did pull a gun on me, but he didn't point it at me.
No, that's traumatic.
When I went to the police station to report it, they were like, what happened? I was like, yo, this guy had a gun. They were like, he pointed at you. I was like, no. Then the lady was like, but did you see the gun? I was like, yes. Then she was like, that's you were held at gunpoint. Once you see it, don't laugh.
I'm not laughing.
Once you, like, she was basically explaining, like, once you see the weapon,
yeah,
it's chai, like it's
gunpoint.
Yeah,
you're held at gunpoint.
You've been held at gunpoint. It's done. So I was like, oh my God. And that like took me back even more. Like now I was starting to process that, oh my goodness, I was actually in a life-threatening situation.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize it. Because, you know, like fight, flight, or fawn.
Yeah.
Yes. So what happened to me, I had no fight in me. I just want to make that clear.
You could not flight.
I could not flight because the car came. So I was walking down the street and I had to make a turn.
Yeah.
So I made the first turn and I saw the car just like driving. So, but I didn't think anything of it because, you know, people are always driving at like strange, you know, speeds. It's fine.
Yeah.
And then
they don't stop at intersections.
Right. And then I made another turn, but then this car was really in front of me. But then I saw it stop. So I'm thinking, oh, they're probably picking somebody up. I could have flighted at that moment, but I didn't. Because I didn't think too much of it. I'm running late. So that's all I'm thinking about. I'm like, I'm running late. And then this guy comes out of the passenger seat, cocks his motherfucking gun, points it at me apparently, according to the police lady.
You were held at gunpoint.
And he's like, where's your phone? You know, EP phone. And I was thinking to myself, where is this phone? Like, because I was left in such a hurry, I think I just threw it in my bag. I didn't have it on my person. So I was like, it's in my bag. And then he was like, okay. So he first started looking through the bag, but there was lots of stuff in it.
Yeah.
So he got tired of searching. Then he just took the whole bag.
That happens. I mean, I have a similar story actually.
Really?
But it actually happened here in the burbs.
You've got to be kidding me.
I'm telling you. So it was the time that I was going to UCT and I was taking the taxi to and from home.
Okay.
And I finished a bit late in the evening with the UCT choir because it ends at 9 p.m., right?
Oh, shit.
So now I grab one of these taxis, you know, from main road to town. I've been doing it for years, never had a problem.
Didn't think nothing of it.
Didn't think anything of it. People were very quiet in the taxi. I was on the phone.
Wow.
But it didn't click because they were still picking people up and dropping people off, right? So in my mind, it's a normal operating taxi at night. Get to Woodstock, Rhodablum Road. Not Rhodablum, it was another road. They drive up onto the N2 and I'm like, oh, shit. You know when you get that feeling, it's like, oh, crap. You know what's happening. I've been had. You know what's coming, but you're hoping, like, there's this delusional part in you that is just hoping that this is not what you think it is.
I think I had the same feeling. Once the guy, like, came to me, I was like, should have taken that lift. Should have woken up 5 minutes earlier. It's very difficult not to be like, man, how did I get in this situation? But it happens.
And then, for example, they drive really wildly. Guy comes sit next to me. He pulls out what I viewed to be a gun. It was a gun.
Was it a real gun?
It wasn't pointed at me.
You were held at gunpoint. You were held at gunpoint. That's what it sounds like.
And then they took my watch. They took my phone. They wanted to take my shoes, but then I got a bit wrapped up over that. I was like, no, you're not taking my shoes. You're not taking my shoes. In the contained taxi with the guy with the gun, like, you're not taking my shoes.
Oh my goodness. I would have given him the shoes.
No. Then like, no, lost him, right?
Or was it not African people?
No. It was one of these taxis on Main Road.
Oh.
And then, and then like they're searching through my bag, and like there's nothing in my bag except textbooks. They still decided to take my university textbooks. Those things are expensive. And then it all happened so quickly that when they dropped us off in the middle of nowhere in Constantia, you know, like
really
on the M3,
on the M3, yes,
in the middle of nowhere in the dark.
Was it just you? Were you the only victim?
It was me and another guy. And we both live in Gogs, which is the strangest thing.
Oh, wild.
So then what ends up happening is, as they leave, I'm like, shit, the number plate. But by then, they already disappeared into the night.
I don't even remember seeing, they asked me, like, do you remember the registration number? I was like, dude, can you be serious? Like, can you actually, are you fucking on drugs? Like, how was I supposed to think about that? Like, in that life-threatening situation, I could have literally, I was goners. It was over for me. If I had any fight in me, it really wouldn't have ended well for me and, you know.
Yeah.
My future.
Life happens.
Yeah.
But like, wow, the stories we have to tell.
But like, I think this is all crime, really.
Crime, but also like crime that does not touch me as much when I'm in Woodstock.
When you're in a different place, yeah. So even me, like, if I have to think twice if I'm going to leave the house, because obviously I have that experience. And afterwards, I obviously took measures to like make sure that I got myself to work safely. I got like I paid a guy to drive me around for like a month, and yeah, and it's to be safe, you have to pay the penalty because it is cheaper living in the township for me because I live at home. If I were to
you have your own house.
Don't tell people that.
Oh, sorry.
I do have my own house, but it's still in the same area.
Yeah.
It's still in the same area. And when I think about it, it's actually, yeah, it depends. It depends where you are. But like, I read somewhere that you need to be working a lot harder if you have to get off at a place when you're going home and then still have to walk. So I took that very personally. So I think the best way for me to obviously get out of that situation, because like the issue that I'm having is that I don't have a car. So if I had a car, I would just leave my house, go to A, go to B, and then it's fine. You know,
I hear you.
I don't have to walk. I don't have to put my life at risk trying to get places.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
What do you think?
I mean, when I had my car, I was roaring from Woodstock to Guguletu through
So there's a
Nyanga
difference.
to...
I think the real issue is the fact that having to take a taxi or public transport of any kind is what puts us at a deficit.
Yeah, but also the fact that the public transit system is just falling apart in Cape Town. I mean, across the country, but I felt it a lot in Cape Town because it does not have the ability to hold the number of people in the city. Right. It really doesn't. And then on top of that, now people are buying cars that they cannot afford, and then they're using them, and then the streets are all getting packed up.
I didn't even notice that was what was happening because I'm always at home.
You don't remember when the trains were working, when the buses were working?
Do the trains still run?
The Southern Line, I mean, like, for example, from town through to Fishhook or town through to Simonstown, like, that line still operates, but the one that goes through areas like Walanga, Guguletu, Krisani, Mitchell's Plain, the Northern Line, that's out. And then I remember...
Oh, my goodness, I didn't even know. I used to take the train in high school.
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
Yeah. And then when I go past the Hedefeld station, which is the one that's in Guguletu, I see that there are no wires.
Oh, my goodness.
All the cables are gone. But that's another thing, right? Like, where do we go for recourse when we're in the township? Because, yeah, it's in the city. Like, living in City Bowl is very different. You know, you can call. Yes, you can get into your difficulties. You know, SAPS drops the phone on you. That's happened to me, actually.
Yikes.
But there's still, like, private security and other things, you know, and people respond generally to things on social media a lot faster.
Okay.
But where do we get the recourse?
My gran used to, me and my gran used to watch TV together, and we would see people in Cape Town like being swept up by floods, and she'd be like, "Why don't you just come home?" And yeah, sometimes I think about that, like maybe life would be easier if we all just like relaxed and found ourselves a plot of land in the Eastern Cape somewhere and then started building it and not pay any rates. Wouldn't that be dreamy?
I'm telling you, I remember ndayaqala for umcimbi kaMakhulu. So my granny's ceremony. And I was at peace. Like even now my brow is furrowed because of how much peace I had.
Yeah,
like I was
it's like you don't even need to do anything. You don't even need to smoke when you're in the Eastern Cape.
Exactly.
Because like there's no stress. Well, I mean it's stressful if you don't have money.
Yeah.
Definitely, I'm sure. But like it's always been the situation that if you know you're gonna be going home in December, because that's where Eastern Cape December is lit.
Yeah.
I was telling someone about, I was like, have you been to the Eastern Cape in December? They were like, no, and I was like, you need to do it because you'll just it's
busy.
It's a whole experience. Every South African needs to experience December in the Eastern Cape at least once.
At least once.
So
December, boss.
I'm telling you. So anyway, thinking about that, actually, I do have a plot of land in the Eastern Cape.
Mm-hmm.
Umhlaba, Joe.
And so now?
No, I was just thinking and so you need to be able to afford the trip. It's just like any other trip. It's just like any other excursion. You have to have like an itinerary, know what you want to do, have a good time, so you can have a really good time.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I've always experienced the feeling of being at home when I'm in the EC because I grew up there. Mm-hmm. So I came here to Cape Town, particularly living in the township was like a secondary experience for me. And then still I rejected it completely. I just didn't feel like this is where I had to be.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've obviously grown a bit older and a little bit wiser, and I understand why it was the way that it was and why we ended up living there. So I understand my situation is not like other people's kids, and it's my duty to obviously leave.
Yeah.
If that's what I want to do. And I want to. I don't think you can ask anyone who lives in the township, if you give them the option, like, do you want to live in Delft or do you want to live in Constantia? I don't think anyone...
It's not a question.
It's not even a question.
It's not a question.
So
it's a false question.
It's a no-brainer. Like, nobody wants to have to live in fear all the time and obviously be poor and obviously... Well, not to say that people who live in the township are obviously poor. I didn't say that. I did not say that.
What you meant was being able to afford living elsewhere.
Yes, and having certain resources that allow you to be... mobile, and
we're not digital nomads.
You'll tell me about it.
But then also, where does one get recourse, right? Because, for example, you go to the police station, sometimes they say, hey, cannot help you because it's normally like very small.
Oh, like where do you go to?
Yeah, because for example, I went to shop at one of these corner stores, and then they took my card payment because I wanted my damn cigarettes, and then they didn't have them, so I'm like, fine, give me my money back. Then they give me my 50 rand, but they charged me 55 rand and said, no, 5 rand is for the processing of the card machine. And I'm like, that's not my problem. That's not my problem.
You are, Karen.
How is that my problem?
I think when you live in the township, there's certain things that you accept as the norm.
No, but I'm saying, like, the police station's right next door. And I could have gone, but then, is it worth my time to go there for 5 rand?
5 rand.
But also, where does one get...
You must think you are living in the UK.
But where does one go for recourse over these things? Because they wouldn't do that here in town. They wouldn't do that in town.
Oh, actually, they do. Because I work just down the road. And I had to take a taxi again. I hate it. So I had to draw some money. So I was like, hi, can I get 25 rand? And the guy, I saw him type in 30 rand. So I was like, oh, it's 5 rand to withdraw. He was like, yes. I was like, okay, cool. Then I'll just take 50.
Yeah.
Because if I'm paying the same, might as well just get, my money's worth. So I was like, I'll just get 50. And he was like, so it's the same in the township as well. Like if you're drawing money for...
But I wasn't drawing money. I had bought something.
You had bought something.
I had swiped and bought.
How much did they charge you?
It was 55 rand. And they only gave me 50 rand back.
Yeah, so they can't give you 55 rands to say, they have to give you 50 bucks.
No, that's an impossibility. But anyway, like, you know what? I'm frustrated. That's fine. And this is the end of this episode anyway.
We're going to talk about this offset. Don't worry.
And so, humans, thank you once again for joining us. From Siseko.
And Apiwe.
We will see you next week.
Thank you so much for listening.
Bye.